gastusan na bastos. Ang walang galang sa akin.
Maayos po siyang kausap, Mama.
Kaya patuloy pa rin ho ang pagdaya nito. At ano ho? Ako po ang mahihirapang pakiharapan ng taong yun?
Tama na, Carmela. Kailangan mo ako kumusap sa aking mga anak. Hindi sa akin. Jessica.
Lord! At hindi na kaiintindihan ang aking anak. Ano ba naman hanapin ni Ate Colonel?
Kain tayo guys.
Pakiulit yan sinabi mo, Hiroshi.
Sabi ko ay, paunin. May uwan ka mo.
They like to wear lots of...
Initial design thinking didn't.
Japanese firms compiled a white paper laying out how they could strengthen ties. The Japanese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Taipei, consists of about 500 Japanese companies doing business in Taiwan. The group submitted the white paper to Liu Qingqing, who heads Taiwan's National Development Council. The report stresses cooperation at the highest levels, expressing hope that the Japanese government can help Taiwan in its application to join a key Trans-Pacific trade pact. The Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership was founded by 11 nations, with Britain set to join this year. Liu said Taiwan and Japan can apply complementary rules, citing the example of semiconductors.
Japan is the best place in the world to cooperate in the semiconductor sector. We will continue to invest for development.
The Japanese group says it will hold further talks with counterparts in Taiwan to improve the business environment and build a positive relationship. The decommissioning work at a Fukushima nuclear power plant has entered its trickiest phase, the removal of radioactive debris. Japan's new industry minister has been talking to the plant's operator and is calling for utmost caution. Muto Yoji made the comment during a visit to the Fukushima Daiichi plant, where the 2011 earthquake and tsunami triggered meltdowns in the nuclear reactors. Officials from plant operator Tokyo Electric Power Company briefed him on the process of removing fuel debris. It's believed this will be the most difficult stage of the decommissioning work. The company started a test run for removing the debris from the number 2 reactor last month, but the work was suspended after cameras attached to the retrieval device malfunctioned. Muto spoke with TEPCO President Kobayakawa Tomoaki and other company officials. The industry minister called the removal work an unprecedented challenge.
We would like the people of TEPCO to take proper action toward a safe and complete decommissioning through their own responsibility, and make sure to avoid causing worry among people in local communities, as well as across Japan and abroad.
Muto said all members of government are determined to do everything they can to help revive Fukushima. Well, brokers handling Japanese stocks are busy notifying their customers of an important change. The Tokyo Stock Exchange is preparing to extend its trading hours by 30 minutes. The show together with you.
Can't wait to see you next time.
And thank you for spending the past half an hour with us on the Culture Wave, and hope you join us again at 2 p.m. tomorrow, and maybe one day here in Korea.
Kain tayo guys.
And I mean it.
To begin a new evacuation in order to very large area in the north, Beit Hanun, Beit Lahia, and Jabalia, and quite recent, like in the last half an hour or so, the people also in the east of Khan Yunis were receiving another warning, because we believe Hamas fired rockets to mark the anniversary today, and the Israelis hit back the places where Hamas have fired the rockets, and they issued this
And
evacuation.
Lucy, what is the reaction from people when they get an evacuation order?
I myself been twice, 3, 4 times evacuate, like following this evacuation order. It's like, you have 10 minutes just to back up your stuff and go to nowhere. You don't have the chance to.
The war in Gaza has one of the lowest ratios of combatants to non-combatants casualties in the history of urban warfare. And you want to know where it's lowest in Gaza? It's lowest in Rafah.
It's an entire nation out there that is responsible. It's not true. This rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved.
מדינה פלסטינית לא יכולה לקום כי אין דבר כזה עם פלסטיני. אנחנו לא נאפשר אפילו הצהרה על מדינה פלסטינית, אפילו הצהרה על הקמת מדינה כזאת חס ושלום.
But it's not only dehumanizing language against the Palestinians that's been used. Propaganda and disinformation have also backed up Israel's military offensive on the ground. Palestinians say it's intended to justify war crimes. Osama bin Javid reports.
Since Palestinian fighters attacked southern Israel on October the 7th, Israel's far-right government has presented a narrative based on untruths and propaganda, often echoed by its allies. One of the most repeated claims was that of 40 beheaded babies.
I never really thought that I would see and have confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children.
He could not have seen them because those dead babies did not exist. In the immediate aftermath, as invading Israeli troops began posting images in women's undergarments, the Israeli government insisted Hamas fighters systematically raped women. Multiple investigations have failed to find evidence to corroborate it. As Israel's war machine grinded through a campaign which has killed more than 41,000 people in Gaza, nearly a third of them children, it maintained Palestinians were faking the deaths of their children. As bombs leveled 3/4 of all infrastructure in Gaza, Israel's justification for targeting hospitals was the presence of Hamas command centers under the buildings. But despite a relentless campaign of attacks on medical facilities and health workers, the Israeli government failed to provide proof to back up animations it used as pretext for the attacks.
It's a baby bottle in a baby.
Inside hospitals, its spokesman lied about days of the week as names of Hamas fighters.
Where every terrorist writes his name.
Aid groups say anyone who tries to get aid to millions of Palestinians living in famine-like conditions is a target. And when Israeli forces shoot or bomb clearly marked humanitarian aid vehicles and staff, the government blames Palestinian fighters, only to later admit responsibility. If there is a public outcry, particularly with the killing of foreign aid workers, Israeli leaders call it, quote, a mistake. Despite the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, or UNRWA, fulfilling the Israeli government's legal requirements, it's been a regular target. Analysts say Israel has been trying to shut down UNRWA for a decade.
Hostages. Now, President Biden has said that he will work tirelessly to secure their release, but it really remains unclear whether the U.S. Might be able to help secure such a deal that would return those hostages back to their loved ones. The anniversary of October 7th is also coming at a very complicated and contentious moment as you have seen this conflict in the Middle East really widening on several fronts. Both Biden and Harris in their statements this morning said that the U.S. continues to support Israel's right to defend themselves, wants to ensure that they have what they need to defend themselves, including in the face of attacks by Iran. You saw the U.S. really step up last week in aiding Israel to try to thwart the barrage and missiles that Iran lobbed in Israel's way. So it really comes at a very precarious moment in the Middle East as President Biden is eager to try to prevent this conflict from widening out even further, even as Israel is now approaching this conflict on multiple fronts, not just fighting Hamas in Gaza, but also fighting Hezbollah in Lebanon. Some of the administration has said they want to find a diplomatic solution to. And then there are the threats that Israel is facing from Iran. Of course, Israel has vowed to respond to Iran's attack last week. The U.S. is in constant contact with their counterparts to try to determine those next steps at a time when Biden's trying to prevent a wider regional war from occurring.
Arlette Science, thank you so much. And stay with us for more coverage from Israel, where the country is marking 1 year since the deadly attack by Hamas that killed at least 1,200 people. And dozens of hostages taken by Hamas on this day 1 year ago are still being held. We'll hear from the mothers who are holding out hope their daughters will soon come home. That's after the break.
Residents of Gaza have been caged in the Gaza Strip. Juliet Ager has more.
It's home to one of the world's highest population densities and has been described as an open-air prison. This is Gaza, a narrow strip wedged between Egypt, Israel, and the Mediterranean. Israel has built a heavily fortified barrier surrounding the strip, containing Palestinians within it, with multiple watchtowers and round-the-clock electronic surveillance. There are two crossings Palestinians could use before the war began. The Rafah crossing is located in the south, and further north is the Erez crossing. All of these entries and exits out of Gaza have been shut by the Israeli military. Israel is systematically attacking Gaza from the north to the south, forcibly displacing hundreds of thousands of people where every inch is a military target. So-called safe zones designated by Israel have shrunk to just 11% of the strip, and those very safe zones have been targeted. This is what Palestinians are calling running from death towards death. Israel's control of two strategic points allows it to trap an entire population. One is the Philadelphia corridor, a buffer zone between Gaza and Egypt, and Netzarim, a corridor created by the Israeli army that cuts the strip into half, allowing it to control the movement of aid and people from the north to the south. Israel's demand for lasting control over these two buffer zones has stalled any hopes of reaching a ceasefire, leaving an entire population stuck in a death trap with nowhere left to go.
The past year of unrelenting Israeli bombardment has destroyed 75% of Gaza's infrastructure, leaving the strip unrecognizable. The UN says such widespread devastation has not been seen since the Second World War. Our correspondent Hani Mahmoud reports from Gaza.
12 months of bombardment, heartbreak, and pain. The scars of war are etched into every street. And what Palestinians once knew and held dear have turned into ever-distant memories.
This is my home, or what remains of it. Only a small part of my home. I can't reach it. I wish I can go in and take some of my belongings, but my dream was destroyed.
Israel's airstrikes, artillery shelling, and demolitions have turned much of Gaza into a vast wasteland of rubble. Yet, it is still a claustrophobic.
Every time I look at the destruction, I feel depressed. You feel as though you're in a dream. You want to wake up from it and return, but we can't bring back anything. Until when will we remain like this? Until when will we continue to be under siege and under stress? Our days are all just war. We don't feel any comfort or safety.
More than 75% of buildings here have been destroyed. Families have repeatedly made the agonizing decision to leave, and as they flee, the destruction follows them. Places of healing and sanctuary turn into places where Palestinians mourn. Homes where parents once tucked children into their beds, now in ruins with bodies beneath them.
It's like we're in a nightmare. I pray to God that I wake up. The children were asleep. They are innocent and they were asleep. They've been torn into pieces.
You don't have to look far to understand what Gaza is going through. And every now and then, a reminder of what once was
We were raised here. We lived with these children. We used to sit outside during the summer and play with them. I didn't imagine that there would be all this destruction. Both the old and the young were killed. The local registry deleted their names, and now they're all gone.
Still, a push of some semblance of normality as Palestinians have tried to hold on to their resilience. But 12 months on, everything is missing in Gaza, even the idea of a future. Hani Mahmoud, Al Jazeera, Gaza, Palestine.
And let's bring in another of our correspondents in Gaza now, Hind Al-Khudri, who's in Deir al-Balah in central Gaza. Hind, like Hani and like Tariq, you've lived the war in Gaza almost every single day for the past year, and you've reported on it. Talk to us first about how people are reflecting on this somber anniversary in Gaza.
Well, you can't imagine the sadness every single person in the Gaza Strip and abroad is feeling right now. None of us ever imagined that this would mark a year. We have been waiting for a ceasefire, a truce over all of the 365 days. Every single Palestinian has been severely impacted by this war. Either they lost their houses, a family member, a friend, a colleague, and it not only we lost Palestinian souls, but we also lost all of our memories, our houses being displaced, scattered in a very small land, which is the middle area, where we're talking about more than 1.8 million Palestinians displaced in the central area, and especially in Deir al-Balah. It has been a very hard year, and especially us reporting on this war since day one, with the bare minimum of equipment, with telecommunication blackouts, and also a lot of censorship on Palestinian content. But we are still reporting on the ground because we believe that we need to carry and to spread the story of Palestinians and what's happening right now.
And we appreciate your reporting, of course, throughout this year, Hind. And Israeli warplanes have again bombed Gaza on this October the 7th. Tell us about the situation on the ground right now.
Well, it's escalating in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, where the Israeli forces are invading in Beit Lahia, Jabalia, and in the northern parts, where there has been a couple of airstrikes and at least 5 Palestinians were killed. But also, last night the Israeli forces struck another time Al-Aqsa Hospital, and one of our colleagues, Ali Al-Attar, Al Jazeera Arabic cameraman, was injured with 2 shrapnels in his brain, and he has internal bleeding right now. We transferred him here to Al-Aqsa Hospital, but there was no space for him. He had to go into an ICU unit, but because it's very crowded and busy, he did not have any place. So now we transferred him to the European hospital, and this portrays what Palestinians have been witnessing throughout all of this year. Zero medical supplies, zero healthcare, and that's why a lot of Palestinians are succumbing to their wounds. Now, Palestinians are still feeling worried. They're still feeling that this day won't pass peacefully, and everyone, especially those kids, they're very traumatized and feeling sad and scared about the 7th of October. Again, this day not only marks a year of the war on the Gaza Strip, but also marks a year of Palestinians losing everything they once had.
Hind, thank you very much for your reporting once again. Hind Al-Khudri, live there in Deir al-Balah, central Gaza. And as you heard there from Hind, she's been reporting non-stop on this war. As with all of our correspondents, it's come at a personal cost. In a moment, you'll hear from Tariq Abouazoum, but first, here's Hind's experience.
The hardest days during this year was not only being displaced, away from home, not being able to meet my family, but the worst and the hardest times where I had to report on the killing of my colleague, Hamza Dahdour. Hamza was a very beautiful man and journalist and friend, and I don't want to cry, but I'm reporting this right now because I know that if Hamza was here, he wanted me to report, and he wanted all of his colleagues to report and to continue reporting. These times were one of the hardest times I spent during that year. 5 of his family members are still under the rubble, including his wife, his children. Among them is a 2-month-old. Also, feel so homesick. I'm only 10 minutes away from where my house is, and I could not go there because of an Israeli checkpoint. This war is ongoing. We're continuing reporting, and we're committed to this journey. I refused to leave the Gaza Strip. I refused to leave the Gaza Strip with my family, evacuate my family, and I chose to report, and I'm continuing to report. Nowhere is safe, and Palestinians are targeted. In hospitals, in schools, in makeshift tents, Palestinians do not know where to go. This is in the Khudari, Al Jazeera, Al-Aqsa Hospital, Deir al-Balah.
This war has massively changed my life, forcing me to be a refugee in my homeland. I have come across plenty of security and humanitarian challenges since day one of the Israeli war on Gaza. This is the impact side of the strike. We're right now at the backyard of Al-Aqsa Hospital. As you can see, this place has turned upside down after an Israeli airstrike. I have been internally displaced along with my family members over 5 times so far, ending up to be trapped here in Deir al-Balah.
Shout out guys. Ito yung 1 year ng atake ng Hamas sa Israel. 1 year ngayon. Ano tayo ngayon
Unable to afford them with full sense of safety, because we believe that all safe humanitarian zones designated by the Israeli occupation forces have been widely targeted, and people were killed in these areas without any warning. It's really a very devastating war that made us witness one of the worst suicides ever committed in modern history.
1 year on, the United Nations Secretary General is reflecting on where things stand.
Since October 7th, a wave of shocking violence and bloodshed has erupted. The war that has followed the terrible attacks of 1 year ago continues to shatter lives and inflict profound human suffering for Palestinians